In this video, I'm going to go through the top 6 factors that I look at when I'm reviewing an architect's website, trying to identify ways that it could be improved, could attract better qualified clients, or could improve the number of leads that they're getting. So my little spreadsheet that I'm looking at in front of me has my usual kind of 20 or so little things that I look at. But in this video, I'm just going to go through the top 5 or 6. So the first will seem like a very obvious one to most architects. Website design is pleasant to look at and establishes good taste. Many of us put a lot of effort into that. That is the main concentration of how we think about developing our website. In fact, it almost overrides any of the other things that our website needs to do. As long as it's looking good, we're pretty happy. But I still find a lot of firms out there that have kind of clunky, kind of ugly, kind of outdated. I hate to be critical of it, but websites that just don't really work or look great. And when you're a design services business, that first impression is pretty important. You're selling architectural services, so that showing that attention to detail and that respect for good design, I think, is something that has to be pretty upfront. Call me old-fashioned, but it does matter. So does that mean that you have to rush out and hire the trendiest graphic designer in town and get and spend $10,000-$15,000 on a new website? It depends on your situation. If you're a really big successful firm and you're at a point where you can afford to do that, then do that. But most firms are not at a stage where that's a really good use of their time or money. It's a lot of stress. It's a lot of problems. And in many cases, architects have less than 100 visitors a month landing on their website, and even fewer that could potentially be qualified. So what I would suggest for a lot of firms is to just think, if it doesn't have to be a big, grueling, arduous process to get a new website. In many cases, I would recommend that you just get a Squarespace website, or you could check out Webflow, or you could check out Cards, spelt with 2 R's. Lots of good website building sites. And they will just help you to have a website that works properly, that loads relatively quickly. Nothing's broken. It works on mobile devices where the majority of people are viewing websites from. Just really simple things, nice, clean, off-the-shelf aesthetics. You don't need to reinvent the wheel in many cases to create a good starting point for your website. So I would recommend thinking about the website design at first, just making sure that's right before you move on to addressing any of these other issues. So the next thing, the portfolio is thoughtfully curated and the projects that are being shown align with your goals. Okay, so I understand when you're first starting your architecture firm and you don't have any work, you feel a bit insecure, you feel a bit vulnerable. Are people going to think I have enough experience? Are they going to know that I'm capable of doing all these different things? That's totally normal. But most firms never graduate out of that mindset, and they always are leaving every single project, everything they've ever, every time they've ever touched a pen to a piece of paper, it's on their website. And what that's resulting in is lowering the average quality of your portfolio. It's sort of dragging down your work to a certain extent. It is kind of showing that you're not that curated and you're not that I guess you could say thoughtful about the projects that you're showing. And worst of all, in many cases, it's attracting the wrong kind of project, a type of client or a type of brief or a type of project that you've long moved past and you're aspiring for a new kind of work, a better kind of work. And if you're showing anything less than your best work in your portfolio, it's slowing you down on your journey to get there, in my opinion. So go through your portfolio mercilessly. Take no prisoners. Just if there's projects there, I would say almost go in with a Marie Kondo kind of approach and just be like, is this project sparking joy, or is this project just here because it's here? Get rid of it, right? Replace it with something else or delete it entirely. Some of the most successful and most really just gripping architecture firms, kind of weird to use that word, but really firms that you just get such a strong impression of what their firm is about, have far fewer projects on average on their website than most firms that you look at. In the typical architecture firm out there, they might just have 2 or 3, but they're just really showcasing excellent work. And the rest of the website makes sure that credibility, that experience, that authenticity, that that trustworthiness are there. It doesn't happen through your portfolio. It happens across your site. So think a little bit more holistically about solving that problem. Don't put below average work from your abilities in there to try and pad things out. So the third point, positioning is relevant and distinctive. Okay, so positioning is a very, very difficult subject, and there's no way I can give you a very good framework in a general sense for finding that. But at a very simple level, your firm is different to other architecture firms. If you're finding it hard to figure out what that is, you're looking in the wrong places. You're thinking about it from the wrong angle. So I might just suggest maybe just a simple brainstorming exercise that you can use to help figure that out. And it's simply that you've worked in other architecture firms prior to starting your practice. So think about what you do differently to them from the perspective of how you treat clients, how projects unfold, your design approach, the tools you use, the steps of the process. The list goes on. Just really try and plot out, what you do versus what they did. And you'll start to understand in a more practical sense what your firm does differently. I mean, it might even be at the foundation of why you started your firm. You may have gone, for years and years, I've worked in firms that have done this. Finally, now that I run my own firm, it's important to me that we do what? That sense of departure or change or difference is something that you can articulate. Now, making it so that will help you to at least get a starting point on something that is a practical difference, not just, well, we really care about the end user, or we really care about making better public spaces, or we really care about, the quality of space, because that's not practical. It's not distinctive. It's on every single architect's website. So making sure that it is something that is grounded as a starting point, and then you can make it fancy later, but start with something that is actually real positioning in terms of what you offer that's different. Now, going on from that, I would say that the next point, the fourth point, is that the ideal client... Got a loud dog over here. The fourth point is that the ideal client is easily identifiable. So you're going through this exercise of identifying yourself and what your firm is about. But you can actually achieve a lot by trying to identify your client on your website. So this is kind of like, what beliefs do they have? What values do they have? How do they see architecture? What are they looking to achieve with their project? Do they need to be patient? Do they need to be energetic? Do they need to be open-minded? Like, what are the characteristics for you of a client that you're going to have the best impact with, who's most likely to appreciate what you do and attribute some value to it, and is going to help, is going to work with you as a collaborator to produce an excellent piece of architecture? Who is that person? Because it's very important that you state that description on your website so that it sends a big bat signal to the people that you're seeking to serve. But it also is a kind of get lost, get off my lawn to the people who don't share your values, who ultimately you wouldn't be a good fit with. So you are sort of turning away some prospects by narrowing your field of view, but you're having a much bigger impact on the people that you desire to work with by saying through your website copy, hey, you, yes, you, I'm talking to you, we would work together very well. This would be a perfect match. So choose a place on your site to start to give hints or hint at who your ideal client is. It's very, it makes a really big difference. The fifth point is there is a sense that there are real people behind the organization and they appear trustworthy. You wouldn't believe the number of architect websites I visit in a typical week where the name of the director is not even written anywhere on the website, and these are practicing architecture firms. It is absolutely appalling. You should have more than just your name. You should have the names of almost everybody that works with you. You should have photos, you should have descriptions, and you should have as much as you possibly can to talk about who the person is behind the business and establish trust. You should talk about where you've been in the media. You should talk about events that you've spoken at. You should talk about content that you've created. You should talk about, here's my social media audience of this many thousand people, etc., because you're trying to establish trust and help people to believe that they're making a choice that has a minimal amount of risk by working with you. The old expression, nobody ever got fired for hiring IBM. How do you create a situation where nobody ever got fired for hiring your firm? By making it so clear that you're trustworthy, and having that just be in every single part of your site, not just your about page. And then the final point is that the website contains useful information. And I really have to emphasize this, and I put this last because architect websites are generally about an aesthetic first impression and some fairly fluffy copy. They don't really tell me anything about the firm, what they do, what their process is, what I should expect as a client, what's required of me, what the values of the practice are, and so on and so on. What are the next steps? What happens when I contact you? Just the list goes on, right? This is the information that I came to your website to learn, and I almost never find it there where I'm expecting it to be, right? So how do we balance what the marketer and the website digital person would want, which is loads of information, with the architectural intuition, which I also have, being a sort of former architect person, to want to make it just minimal and less is more and not have much in it? Okay, so I realize there's a compromise to be had here. There are at least two ways that you can approach this. The first would be to package all of this information together in documents and a PDF, and have a very sleek little link like start here on your website. Maybe it's a button, and have that download that package of information that people can go through in their own time. That means that your website isn't overloaded. It doesn't feel kind of like just full of stuff and you feel like you're kind of different to the other architects. You want to fit in with the crowd. I get it. So you can do it as that kind of downloadable package that they can view in their own time. The other way to do it is just to contain that information to one or two areas on your website. Maybe it's an FAQ page, maybe it's start here, just one place where it's like, here is the 101 to my firm, everything you need to know. An FAQ is a particularly good structure for breaking down loads of practical information where you don't feel like you have to write in a very artist statement kind of way. You're just going question, answer, and you can pack a ton of information and make your website very easy to navigate in a very small amount of real estate by just doing that, something that somebody can choose to expand and read more into if the information is relevant to them. So those are the things that I would focus on, guys. Website design, pleasant to look at. Project/portfolio is thoughtfully curated and aligns with your goals. Positioning is relevant and distinctive. Ideal client is easily identifiable. There are real people behind the organization. They appear trustworthy, and website contains useful information. Those are kind of the top 5, top 6 things that I think are the most important. There's many other factors, but for the time being, if you get those things right, you're almost all the way there. So let me know what you think in the comments. Leave any questions that you've got. If you've got a website and you want me to have a look at it, send me an email. I'll take a look at it for you. I can make you a short video or something, because I always just love looking at websites for some reason. You can probably tell I'm kind of passionate about it. And I'll see you in another video. Thanks.